Hello, my name is Dylan Raymer, and this is my presentation on operational security. Before we truly start this slideshow, I would simply just like the listener to imagine that they owned a business. Doesn't matter what type, just whatever business comes to mind. Now, there's a competitor that's very similar to your business just down the street. This competitor has somehow been having discounts on the same items that you offer at your own store. It's almost like they seem to know what you're going to do before you do it. You come to realize that this is actually true. They do know what you're going to do before you do it. So, how do you stop it? Now, unless you're military, you've probably never heard of operational security or OPSEC before. Operational security is a process used to protect sensitive information from getting into the wrong hands. Operational security involves identifying critical and sensitive information, assessing vulnerabilities, finding potential threats, and taking steps to mitigate risks. Now, operational security is actually as old as history itself, being used by ancient militaries all over the world. It was mainly used for secrecy and deception against the enemies of ancient militaries. For example, the infamous Trojan horse's success in ancient Greece relied upon operational security to be successful. Another ancient example of operational security would be the use of ciphers. Ciphers were basically the modern day equivalent of an encrypted message to relay information securely to protect military plans and keep said plans from being intercepted by enemies. Now, operational security today is not the same operational security as ancient times. Over time, it has evolved, and we see the first glimpse of modern OPSEC being used by the United States during the Vietnam War. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military realized how seemingly harmless actions could reveal critical information to its enemies. Simple things like a lost piece of paper or an overheard conversation could be all it takes for the enemy to piece together intelligence. Because of this realization, Project Purple Dragon was created in 1966 during the Vietnam War due to the North Vietnamese being able to predict future attacks by the United States. They predicted that these attacks with consistency and accuracy. This also, in turn, led to the creation of the 5 stages of operational security, which I'll go over here soon in a few slides. Now, fast forward 50 years since the Vietnam War, operational security is now being used by not only the military, but by civilians. It has become a key component in cybersecurity, risk management, and even personal safety. Now, in today's world, operational security is more about keeping sensitive information from falling into the wrong hands, because this can bring up a dire situation, especially in the world we live in today, which is why organizations and individuals alike use OPSEC to safeguard their sensitive information from hackers, competitors, and all other types of threats that are out there. Now, I mentioned them only a few slides ago, but time for the 5 stages of operational security. The 5 stages are as followed: to identify critical information, analyze threats, analyze vulnerabilities, assess risks, and apply countermeasures. The first stage of operational security, which is to identify critical information, is arguably the most important step. Within any military, business, project, or process, there will always be critical components of sensitive information that other processes depend upon. For example, in the military, it could be an attack timetable. For a restaurant, it could be a secret recipe. It's this type of critical information that, if exposed, can bring great harm and why they should be identified when practicing operational security. Tying into the first stage, the second stage of operational security is to analyze threats. Now, generally speaking, threats are things that cause us harm. So, in operational security, these threats are usually based on what harm may be caused if critical information we identified in the first step becomes exposed. For example, we know that grandma's secret recipe is critical information for a restaurant. If this recipe is to get out some way or another, people could make it at home and competitors could use it in their restaurant, thus bringing revenue loss and grandma's recipe being no longer secret. Now, this recipe being leaked is one potential threat, but what if there is another piece of critical information that can bring the restaurant harm? Well, you repeat this stage for every piece of critical information you find, making this type of analysis very situational. The third stage in operational security is the analysis of vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities, as they pertain to operational security, are weaknesses that can be used or exploited to cause harm. With these vulnerabilities, we look at the processes that interact with this critical information that can be attacked. To give you an example of a vulnerability, just think about where you might hide a house key. I'm sure a lot of you might say under a rock or vase by the door. Well, this can be considered a vulnerability. How about a security camera's blind spot? A vulnerability. This stage is basically taking a look at your defenses and seeing what issues are easier to attack than others. These issues can present many different vulnerabilities that have the potential to cause serious harm to your sensitive information. The fourth stage of operational security is the assessment of risks. These risks only occur when we have a matching threat and vulnerability. To go back to the secret recipe and hidden key example, we analyzed potential threats and vulnerabilities and found that if the secret recipe was leaked, it could lead to financial harm. Then we found that there's a spare key to unlock the back door of the restaurant hidden underneath a rock. These matching issues can potentially lead to our critical information, the recipe, being exposed to our competitors down the street. Before we move on, I just wanted to note again that there is a need for matching issues to constitute a risk. If we didn't have a spare key hidden, then there wouldn't be a risk. Same if we didn't use grandma's secret recipe, but just a recipe from the internet. The fifth and final stage of operational security is the application of countermeasures. Only once we have revealed what possible risk we may have to our critical information will we put countermeasures in place to mitigate the risk itself. Again, to go over it once more. A risk is only a risk in operational security when there is a matching threat and a matching vulnerability. So, when applying countermeasures, the bare minimum you can do is to mitigate at least one of the two, either the threat or the vulnerability. So, for example, we found that a threat a restaurant may face is that a secret recipe may be exposed to competitors, and a vulnerability was a spare key to the restaurant simply hidden under a rock. While the restaurant can't change the secret recipe and mitigate the threat, something can be done about the spare key to mitigate the vulnerability. Once you have completed the 5 stages of operational security, go again. Each time you complete them, you only further mitigate any potential issues that might arise until there is no issue in the first place. Each time you repeat the 5 stages, you only further create better operational security and more knowledge and experience in operational security itself. Now, to give you an example of an operational security plan that you could probably relate to in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to be traveling domestically, and my mission is to protect my online privacy and security while I'm traveling. First up, I will identify critical information that will risk my online privacy and security. Any identifiable information like my full name, passport, or home address that I carry on me. My travel plans, like where I'm traveling to, and my flight information itself. Any financial information I carry on me while traveling, like my credit card, and any communication medium I use like social media and text messages. Lastly, even the devices I bring along like my smartphone and laptop can be considered critical information. Secondly, I will identify any threats to my critical information. Hackers may target me while I'm using unsecure networks like the airport's free Wi-Fi. Physical theft of my belongings, especially any documents and devices, and lastly, any social engineering I may run into, such as scammers, email phishing attempts, and fake Wi-Fi networks. Up next is to assess vulnerabilities. While I'm traveling, there will be a multitude of vulnerabilities that I might run into, or create myself. Using unsecured Wi-Fi networks, like at the airport or hotel. Device misuse is another, like if I leave my phone unattended. use weak passwords, etc., oversharing any plans and details, whether through conversations or on social media, and a lack of encryption when sending any sensitive information of mine is another vulnerability as well. Stage 4 of maintaining operational security on my mission is to assess possible risks. There are a few matching threats and vulnerabilities that can be classified as risks. Unsecured Wi-Fi networks that I connect to in public can cause a lot of damage and will be a common occurrence on my mission. Device theft will give the thief access to quite a bit of my sensitive information. Phishing attacks and clicking on suspicious emails is another. Account hacking due to my weak passwords. And lastly, identity theft because I posted my plans on social media. These are all matches between identified risks and threats and therefore classify as risks on my mission. The last stage, implementing countermeasures, will simply mitigate all the risks I may face in some way, shape, or form to maintain operational security on my mission. To begin, using a VPN will encrypt my internet connections, so this will help protect me when using unsecured Wi-Fi connections. Updating all of my software on my devices will give me all the up-to-date security software. Strong passwords will help me mitigate the hacking risk I may face. An RFID blocking wallet will help protect any physical information, like my identification, that is stored in my wallet. And lastly, learning the latest on phishing attacks will help me mitigate the risk of falling victim to one of them as well. This concludes my operational security plan that will help me accomplish my mission of traveling domestically while protecting my online privacy and security. Now, it is time to go over 3 different tools that may help your operational security, if not your everyday activities as well. The tools that I will show you include Video Download Helper, Fireshot, and Privacy Badger. Now, these are extensions on the Firefox browser. They, or a version of them, may be available on whatever browser you're using, but for this video, I will be using Firefox as well. Now, the first tool mentioned above is Video Download Helper. Video Download Helper simply helps download media from a page with the click of a single button. To install this tool, visit downloadhelper.net, then simply follow the directions. Click Download, open and run downloaded file, etc. All of this will install Video Download Helper. Once installed, you can pin the tool to your toolbar, which you can find in the top right corner of your browser. Click on the Video Download Helper icon in the toolbar when visiting any media you would like to download. For the purpose of this video, I simply use Professor Graham's tool review video as you can see in the picture. Once downloaded, you can access it from your files at any point. The second tool is Fireshot. Fireshot helps capture all your results during your research. To install Fireshot, type in the URL shown on this slide and click Add to Firefox. It will then be added to your extensions where you can add it to your toolbar for easier access. If you would like to use Fireshot, simply click its icon in the toolbar and select what you would like to capture. It looks like the image in the video when you do so. The third and final tool, Privacy Badger, blocks invisible trackers spying ads that follow you around the web while you browse. To install Privacy Badger, you can go to your extensions like I did and search for it, or it may very well be in your recommended to you in the recommended tab, of course. Once you find it, click Add to Firefox and it will install it. Now, Privacy Badger is unlike the other 2 previous tools I showed you. Privacy Badger, runs in the background, so you don't have to click anything for it to start running. However, if you do not want it to run, you can click the icon for Privacy Badger in the toolbar and select Disable for this site and it will stop running for the site you are currently visiting. And now, this concludes my video on operational security. I hope I was able to teach you at least one thing along the way. Thank you for watching.